the money isn't everything in this business. When I interview realtors and business partners that want to do business with us, my first question is, will you give up your paycheck to make a deal work for a family? If they say no, I'm not doing business with you. I am people over paycheck. Ultimately, every single time we have to make these families happy. There's a lot of things we cannot control, but we can control if they get into these homes sometimes. And if we have the power to do that, why would we not?
Welcome to another episode of the Made to Be Great podcast. I am joined today here with Angie Turley. Angie, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So we got a lot of cool stuff we can talk about today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do in the world, what makes you tick, and go from there.
If I tell you what makes me tick, we're going to be here for hours, okay? I am Angie Turley. I am in a small town in Indiana, Mooresville, Indiana. We have about 10,000 people here in our town. I do mortgages for my career, but really what I love to do is help my community. So I sit on 11 nonprofit boards in central Indiana, and that's kind of my jam, and coaching other professional lenders across the country. Those two buckets really fill my soul. And so I always say, mortgage is a path for me to be able to do those things that I love. But being able to help someone purchase the biggest thing they'll ever purchase in their life and the fulfillment you get from that too is pretty amazing. And I've been doing this since 1993, so a long time, more than 2/3 of my whole life.
Wow, that is a long.
I would say what makes me tick is just unkind humans. I'm really trying to be more kind.
Like the people when they're not kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
We run into that occasionally. A lot of people might not realize that a lot of what we do day to day isn't the stuff we normally talk about on social media, which is like the cool part, like getting somebody into their first home, helping that move up home or that final destination retirement home. But a lot of what we deal with is conflict resolution, is solving very time sensitive, very serious issues. And that can cause us to, that's a withdrawal from the bank account, so something that, like, I don't know if I feel like I know you well enough that this is probably you. It's like you deal with some of those situations and it gives you perspective on, like, to what you said earlier about like the bowling lane thing. It's like, dude, like, it's not that deep, like, right? So tell me a little bit so you've been in the mortgage industry since 1993?
Real estate and mortgage, yes. So I started at a real estate office when I was 14 years old. $3.25 an hour. It was before they had lock boxes on homes. So my job was for realtors to come get the keys. They would go show the house and then they would bring me the key back. And that just snowballed my career in 99, I got my real estate license and worked for a realtor as an assistant, and then became a mortgage loan officer assistant shortly after that, to a processor, to an underwriter, closer, loan officer about 20 years ago. So I've done a lot of things in the business.
Wow, very cool. We have a lot more than I didn't realize that. So around, my dad was in the real estate business when I was growing up, and I was always hanging out at his office, learning how to do things. And for the first 7 years, I did real estate and mortgage also.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I grew up with a single mom, and at the time, we were kind of in between places, if you will, and living in a motel. And so there was a church bus that came and picked us up, and one of the guys on a Sunday afternoon said, "Hey, like, would you want a job?" And I was like, "I can have a job at 14." And he's like, "Well, yeah, you can. We just can't pay you over X, whatever the minimum wage was, and you can't work so many hours a week." And I was like, "Absolutely." Um, and God's timing, right? Because I never would have thought 33 years later, here I am still in this business. Like, what? Especially because I tell people all the time, don't do it. Why would you get in this business? It's crazy.
That's interesting. So tell me more about that. So, like, what are some of the reasons why you would tell someone not to enter this business?
Well, let's be real. I mean, we don't get to have a life all the time, right? Especially being the bosses. I was writing a pre-approval letter Saturday night at 10 p.m. and then yesterday morning on a Sunday morning at 8 and then again last night at 9 p.m. I mean, there isn't an off switch. Um, but we know what we signed up for too,
Yeah.
because we can also have convenience when we need it. I get my hair done on a Monday morning at 9 a.m. because I know that I worked all weekend. Told you that
Dog
was going
wants
to
to know
happen.
when their haircut is.
Uh-huh. Well, she's mad because Amazon just got here, and is leaving something at the front door. Um, but if you're not prepared to give up your life because there's so many of us, sis, come here, um, that are already in this business, they're just realtors pick up the phone and call the next person.
Yeah.
Clients are going to get on the Google and Google another lender. So if you're not picking up your phone and you're not ready to make the commitment
Yeah.
that this is more than just a full-time job, like this becomes your life. So if you're not prepared for that, I tell people don't get into it.
Yeah.
Sis, why do you have to knock on the door? Why?
It's just
Sis!
it's just some extra excitement for the podcast.
I know. Sorry, guys.
What can you do?
Sissy's,
All
she's
good.
mean.
I'm
She's
sure
15
everyone can relate
pounds.
to this, that
Oh, yeah.
Amazon shows up when you're on a Zoom call for work or something like that, and it just like,
Every time.
yeah.
Every single time. And she loses her mind because we're in the country on a dead end driveway. So if somebody's here, like,
Mm,
she's letting them know she's here too. All 15 pounds of
that's
her.
that's not a bad thing.
I
And
know. I say it all the time. I'm like, one day I'm going to need her to bark when somebody's here, and
yeah.
she's not going to.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I like, again, this isn't just a job. It
It's
literally
more of a
becomes
lifestyle. Yeah.
it is your lifestyle. Everywhere I go, somebody wants to talk to me about mortgage. I can't go in our gas station in town without seeing a client. Hell, I went to get a pedicure a couple weeks ago at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday and two realtors sitting in there. Like you can't ever really get away from it, which is, again, a good and a bad thing. I know what I signed up for, but a lot of people don't want to have this lifestyle and they don't understand it because, like you said, we were talking, get the highlight reel on Facebook.
Yeah.
You don't get the I'm working at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning, or I'm sending a pre approval letter on Christmas Day while my kids are opening presents. I mean, there's always something in our world.
Yeah. Those are the things. I saw somebody I follow on Instagram post. It was a great content actually. So highly recommend that people in our industry do this. It was a short, like 10-second clip of her at her kitchen island on a stool with one of her kids in her lap, and it said something like, hey, when you call us on Saturday for an emergency pre-approval, this is what we're stepping away from. So we're thankful, like we appreciate you calling, but also please like be respectful of the fact that we're making that sacrifice. And like one of the things that we ask people is, hey, we're full in on you, like we're committed to you when you commit to us, because we're giving things up to do those communications with you Saturday evening, Sunday, whatever it is. And that's worth something. In our industry, we
Hmm.
don't get like a cash deposit or have a contract, like some other industries do. So we're just asking people, like, be a good human, and we're happy to serve you, but also, we ask that those people are mindful. So I thought that was a great piece.
And be committed, right? Like, again, if you're going to interrupt our Saturday, be
Yes.
committed to us. Don't use us until you can get to your bank on a Monday morning because there is nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
But I also just give those people a lot of grace. And I'm like, you know what? I cannot control people. This is not my circus. These are not my monkeys. And that at the end of the day, it's going to be on them. I'm
Yeah.
still going to do it, but I cannot control which way they want to go. But you do have to be ready for that. And again, you have to cast a really wide net in this business to be successful. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. You can't just do one thing. You have to do multiple things every single day.
Because the reality is that a certain percentage of the clients that we interact with are going to do that thing you just said. They're going to call Saturday and need help and get the house with our pre-approval and our reputation. And then
Mhm.
Monday they're going to call their credit union or their bank and they're going to try to, you know, maybe not stick with us. And so you have to be emotionally resilient in that and just like bless and release it. A former coach of mine used to say, like, just bless and release. Like, even if you don't feel like they deserve it, it's like it's not hurting them. It's
Mhm.
only hurting you if you can't just move on and find someone else to help that needs your services, you know? And that's an aspect of our industry that I think a lot of people, and probably goes for any sales or entrepreneurship, like it's just you're going to, you know, if you get 25% of the people you interact with to become a client, like that's probably pretty good, you know? And so that
Mhm.
what that means is 75% of the time, you're gonna get, like, the result you don't love, you know? So you have to be able to just I'm saying this to myself too right now. You have to
Uh-huh.
be able to just, like, let it go and move on. So you dropped something at the beginning of the episode. You live in a town of 10,000. This
Mhm.
has been mentioned on numerous calls at our company and you did like 11,000 units last year. I'm exaggerating, but like, so, so let's, let's talk about the, if you had somebody that you were talking to, cause you also coach, if you had
Mhm.
someone that you were talking to that was either new to an area or restarting their career, what are some of the things that you would say are good disciplines and practices to be able to get from a restart or a fresh start in our industry that would get them to the place that you're at? And how long did it take you to get there? I know you've said you've done a long career because I ask that for perspective because a lot of times people will look at someone like you that does like a zillion units a year and they'll be like, oh, if I just do what she did for 6 months, like I'm going to do a zillion units this year. Maybe that's the case, but talk to us a little bit about that end of it.
Yeah, so family served, first of all. Remember, we don't do units, we do family served.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
the big thing for me is, again, community involvement.
Mm,
Join your chamber. Go talk to your police chief. Talk to your fire chief. Go talk to the schools. The more that you're ingrained in your community, the farther that you're gonna go. Saturday morning, I'm part of our local leadership academy, and we hosted a leadership workshop for 25 local high school kids. And it was from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We go in there, and they asked me to come, and you'll love this, Josh.
mm,
I have to lead the segment on how to have difficult conversations. And I was like, son of a gun.
yeah,
And I'm not good at difficult conversations because
me
I
neither.
avoid confrontation. Like, I hate confrontation. I live in my little world of peace and
Mm,
joy and rainbows and birds. And I don't want to have difficult conversations, but we do, especially as us being the team leaders and the owners of our business.
yeah,
Like we were talking before,
yeah,
we have to have those difficult conversations, which is not fun. So I got to talk to those kids about experience, but I wouldn't have had that opportunity to talk to those kids at that high school had I not gotten involved with all of the things that I do in my community.
yeah,
And one thing I won't do is be involved in things that I'm not passionate about. I love our senior citizens, I love the children, and I love dogs. For all you cat people, I like cats, but like I'm not a cat person. So if somebody came to me and said, "Will you be on a board that has to do with cats?" Absolutely not.
mm.
Not my passion. But you know,
That's good advice when
home.
someone's trying to emulate someone, like, if they say, "Oh,
Mhm.
he works with police and fire." If someone doesn't have the passion or the affinity with that, then it's gonna be really hard for them and look and feel
Correct.
inauthentic. So, I love that you said that because what you're saying are principles, not necessarily like direction on exact copy, right?
Correct, because you don't wanna go in there and be inauthentic, right, or unauthentic. They're gonna see right through if you don't love it.
Yes.
When I go to sit at my board meeting for senior citizens, we have an adult daycare that we specialize in Alzheimer and dementia.
Wow.
I walk in there fired up, and they know it because I am so passionate about helping these people stay in their homes and what we do with our mission there, that they can feel that energy. When I walk into my police board and we're raising, hundreds of thousands of dollars for first responders, they feel my passion when I walk in that room. I don't want to walk in a room and be like, yeah, cats are great, but
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like and
100%.
you
People
don't,
feel that energy. Yeah,
why would you spend time on something that you don't love? Because our time here is too short anyways, and we don't have but one life, so I'm
yeah.
not gonna spend time on things that I don't love.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So, what are some things that so when you reach out, so let's take a couple of those examples, the police and fire and the elderly. So there's three examples.
Mhm,
How did you make the cold approach? Like, let's say again, you got, you've for whatever reason you have to move from Indiana to Idaho.
mhm.
No one knows you there. You're going to walk into uh, fire station, and what do you say? Who do you ask for? How did you get from like 0 to where you're at now with those type of
Yep.
arrangements?
Well, we're just gonna be transparent because, like you and I talked about, I don't know anything else. Well, I married a firefighter and then I divorced him. So I would highly not suggest going to marry a firefighter or a police officer and then divorce them. But that was, and when I married him, he was not a police or firefighter at the time. He got on the fire department while we were married, and then it kind of snowballs when you're in with one of those fire department groups, it snowballs. But when I moved here to our town, I didn't know the police or the fire chief or anyone because we had lived in the county north of us. So the first thing I did was I got involved with their union, because trying to talk to the chief or whatever, they're just going to blow you off. If they don't like you, they're not going to spend time with you. But the unions actually take care of the firefighters and the police officers. And the unions are always looking for things to do with their police officers and firefighters. So I was like, oh, hey, let me help you sponsor a family picnic, or let me help you sponsor a cornhole tournament, or whatever the case may be.
So you
But
just offered service. You came in there and offered service, and it was genuine to you.
and how many, there's national holidays every day, right? National Donut
Yeah.
Day. I mean, you can literally make up anything or look online and be like,
Take your
"Oh,
cat to
hey
work day.
guys, it's National Donut Day. I wanted to bring donuts by the police station."
Yeah.
You, as long as you're genuine, that is the thing, is just getting to know them better. And now, anytime that they call me, I will do anything that they need. They called me 2 years ago. They've never had a civilian shop with our Shop with a Cop program, and the
Nice.
police chief called me and said, "You do so much. Would you come shop with us?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I will." Um,
What is that shop with
Shop
it?
with a Cop. So we take about 50 of our local underserved children in our area that need Christmas presents, and we take them to Walmart and they get to shop with a police officer and pick out all their own Christmas gifts.
Wow,
It's
that's
pretty
pretty
cool.
cool. That is cool.
hmm So we raise money all year, do a car show, and do a couple other things with the police department that we help with, which is why we were invited. But to see those kids pick out a bike and, oh, it just
And
warms your heart.
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So is that the similar kind of pattern with each one of those organizations? You just found
hmm
some way to
To serve.
be a contribution and serve
hmm
something that you had a passion about. This is a great formula. So
hmm
someone listening to this or watching, they can think, "Hey, what things am I passionate about? Who do I really if I wasn't trying to do this for an income and I just was out there helping a cause or a group that I really feel passionate about, who are those groups? And then how can you be a service and contribute to those things? And then how did that, um, how, tell us about what the conversion looked like from going in serving to now people are asking you to serve them with their mortgage. How did that happen? What was the bridge for that?
Well, and I kind of alluded it to at the beginning. Mortgage is my way in to do these things that I love. And when people see how passionate that you are about their organization or their cause or whatever you're doing to help them,
Mm,
they just start telling people. I don't go in there asking for business. I just when people call me and say, "Will you sponsor?" And again, I don't sponsor everything, but I sponsor a lot because if it is in one of those groups that I'm passionate about, I think like this year we have 3 T-ball teams that are running around Mooresville in my little town with Fairway Team Turley jerseys because I love those kids. I didn't get to play sports growing up because we couldn't really afford it. So
mm,
if I can help offset the cost for some of these kids, we do. This will be our second or and it might be our third year. We sponsor all the handy capable kids at one of our local elementaries to go to Holiday World, which is like a amusement park here in southern Indiana. They needed $1,000 sponsor. That's what it cost to get these kids. And the first time they called me, I was like, yes, like if those kids that are handy capable get to go and be at Holiday World and have a great day with everything else they deal with in their lives, I'm fortunate enough that I can pay that forward and help those kids. Um, yeah, so and I just did a mortgage for one of the moms. But again, I didn't do it because of that, but it's giver's gain. If you are giving, God is going to give back to you. You just don't know what form it's going to come in. And for me, it's been fortunate enough that every year since we've been at Fairway, we've been able to help almost 300 families in 7 years. I mean, every single year for 7 years.
yeah, that's amazing.
Sometimes 5 or 400. Crazy.
That is crazy. For
Mhm.
perspective of people outside the industry, the norm, like the average family served per year is probably something in the 20s or 30s is probably like a national average.
Yeah, we say it's like 2 to 3 a month is the national average, so 24 to 36 families
Yeah.
helped, and I
So
think
for
we have
perspective, that's what, for anyone not in the industry might be like, oh, okay, what's the big deal? A few hundred families. Um, that's like a multiple of at least 10 on probably the average. So that's why I'm asking you, like what you've
Mhm.
built is outstanding in the industry, and
Thank you.
people can learn something from. So that's why I appreciate you being on the show today, because people
Of
can learn
course.
something from, success leaves clues, and
Mhm.
success for a long time and very consistent. And so whatever it is that you're doing is working. And so if people can take a couple of principles from what you're saying and apply that, I think it will help a lot of people. So um so
And
what
if it helps just one, right? Isn't that what Jake always tells
it
us? If
is,
it helps
yeah,
just one.
which it usually turns out to help more than one, but I
Agreed.
love the spirit of that. What was something that caused you to have that passion or that desire that's so strong to help others and serve and give back? Were you always that
Mm.
way, or was there uh, an event or a season that caused you to really lean into that more?
Ugh, that is such a loaded question, Josh, and now you're making me tear up. Um, ooh, growing up in not the best, um, space is hard. And
Mm,
so I always told myself from a very young age that one, I was never going to let my children go through the things that I had to go through. But two, when I was able, I will give back to my community because if we wouldn't have had some of the resources that we did growing up, I don't know that I would be where I'm at today. Um, I'm the oldest sibling that doesn't have a felony, and
wow.
my siblings are in trouble a lot still to this day. They did not learn their lessons. Um, so for me to be able to make a difference in somebody's life
Mm,
that made a like people made a difference in mine, how do I not do that?
I love that. Thank you for
Because
being
it
so.
is a big, it is a big deal when you have someone that believes in you
Yeah.
and that knows you can make something out of your life. And there have been, gosh, so many people throughout my career that saw something in me that I didn't see.
Mm,
And especially, and I know we're going to touch on this, since I quit drinking,
Wow.
looking back, seeing things more clear now more than ever, I want to go out and help whoever I can and make a difference in their life.
Wow.
I knew you were going to get me today. I just didn't
I
know it was going to be so soon.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you for being so vulnerable and transparent. I know a
of
lot of people will
course.
be able to connect with what you're sharing, and I think you'll help more than just one. A lot of times when you're in couple things I got out of that was when you're in an environment which sounds like add or subtract to this, but when your proximity to people are on average negative situations and people, um, the natural gravitational force of your life is going to be pulling you towards those negative things. And it can be so impactful and refreshing when somebody comes and does something positive for you or brings good future possibilities within your proximity. And that's a very interesting through line from my life to yours. Not in the same exact way, but just I feel one of the reasons behind this podcast and my why in life, which is to help others make it, is that over the course of my career, I have felt a similar way in that, like, there's people who have helped, and you're one of those people, not to, but like, there's people who just come in and help, and you can't pay that back in money,
Hmm. Yeah.
but it causes you to recognize that and say, hey, where can I contribute back? So these are some of the beautiful things behind people might not, this doesn't jump out at people when they're thinking of who to call for their mortgage.
Right.
These are the human stories behind, like, hey, this a job can be very rewarding, can be very difficult. And if you don't have a strong purpose for doing what we're doing, it's very hard to have longevity in this career because of the mental and physical toll that it can take. And if there wasn't people like you sponsoring the local T-ball and going to the nursing home, like, not to shade any other kind of mortgage contributor, but like, people generally, people from large national banks, online lenders, they're not doing these types of things for their community. It's a totally different game. So I
Hmm.
hope that the public listening to this can kind of recognize that as they're considering, hey, who do I want to do my mortgage with? Angie, who's a person who lives in my community, who loves my community, who gives back to my community? Or do I want to call some online person and save 37 cents and maybe have a horrible experience and not close on time? These are things that, this is real stuff, you know?
It is. And, you talk about Fairway. Oof. Do you know that I've never celebrated a 5-year anniversary in my 33-year career ever at one company?
I vaguely remember hearing that.
And I've been
So,
at Fairway now for 7 years, almost 7.5.
wow.
Um, and again, we've talked about my numbers, and yes, my numbers are extraordinary. They have been for years. And we get a lot of recruiters that call us. It's a fun time, isn't it,
Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah.
Um,
Especially over the last
and
few years, I feel like it's been at another level of normal.
yes, yes. And I the very first thing I always say is, "1, can I have your CEO's cell phone number?" And that always throws them off because 'cause I'm like, "I can call Steve Jacobson
And he'll
at
actually
any
answer.
time, and
Yeah.
he will."
Yeah.
And if not, I'm getting a message back that says,
Yeah.
"Hey, Ange, I'll call you back,
Yep.
whenever."
100%.
But 2, money isn't everything,
No, it's
and you can throw money at a lot of things, but we have people here that genuinely care about clients. This isn't just another loan number. This
yeah.
isn't Look at the nonprofits. Fairway Cares and AWI for what they do in my community.
Mm.
Every I get once a week, Josh, people want to know how long I've owned Fairway. That's how much we've ingrained Fairway in this
Wow.
community. They don't even realize that Fairway is a national company until I sit down and have a conversation with them and tell them, like, I have friends in every state. We do service dog giveaways across the country. We provide boxes for people that are in, pain or in need of some comfort. There's just so many things. We have a CEO that actually cares about the people, and that to me means more than anything. And when I was interviewing to leave my last company, I said, I need to find my forever home. I'm not making another jump. And when I sat, it took them probably Lars 16 or 17 months to get me here.
Wow.
Um, but I don't want to go anywhere. And when these recruiters call me, like, I don't even want to entertain a conversation
Yeah.
because I am on the train rolling. That was very odd. I was mid-sentence
I was
and
just texting
it
you.
just literally shut down and I was like, what just happened?" I
That's funny.
downloaded the app though. I don't know if I was supposed to do that.
I don't think you have to.
Okay, well, that was it. So
Yeah,
is it still running on your side? Are we still
just
good?
drop the other one. Yeah, it's still
Oh,
running.
shit.
It's still running.
Okay.
So you're good.
So I think I was talking about Fairway and Jake and
Yes.
signing bonuses and
People throw
it's funny.
money.
They really do, but putting your time and energy, yes, money, people do need money, but putting your time and energy with that money is a game changer. When they see you actually show up and pick up trash on the side of the road on a community day with other chamber members, or, it does make a big difference. It's not just us throwing money at things. It is we are involved in our communities and Fairway is 100% behind us. If I called Jake today and said, "Hey, I need you here next week," he wouldn't even ask me what it was for. He
Yeah.
would just show up because he knew it was important to me. And that for me makes the biggest difference in the world.
Yeah. That's another through line we have. I was at my dad's company for 7 years, and I've been here this November will be 10 years. In between that, I don't think I stayed anywhere longer than like 2.5 years,
Mhm.
which I think is probably close to the average in the industry, probably 2, 3 years. It seems like most people make a move. Again, for perspective, for people listening to this, not in the industry, and that's something that I remember when I was first interacting with Fairway and heard some of the tenures of some of the people in corporate and different branch locations across, that stood out to me as like very uncommon in the industry. And some other great advice that I got from a coach years ago when I was making my move from my last company to here was that the way that most people pick a company is money and promise of support. Like, we'll give you a lot of money, we'll give you a sign-on bonus, we'll pay you high commission, and then we're gonna give you this assistant and that assistant, and we're this fast, and there's promises. Um, which what I experienced was many of those promises were like either like fabricated completely or like dramatically overstated, and you don't see it until you get there. But the shift that the coach gave me was how you should pick where you're going to work is what are their values? Like the values of who runs the decisions nationally for the company, the values of the people that you locally have to interact with to make decisions. So, for example, for a value could be maximum profitability. So if the value is maximum profitability, then when you have a situation and something doesn't go well, or there's a rate to be extended, or there's a little bit of a shortage on cash at closing, if the value is maximum profitability, what I would experience in that as the person interacting with the family is like not great. Like, hey, I see you're in a jam, we can't help you, or we won't help you.
Mhm.
versus if the value is to serve people and care for people, when those situations arise, it's like you don't even think about it. It's just like,
Mm-mm.
hey, here's what we're going to do. You're going to serve and take care of the people. So values is number one. And then vision of is number two. Where are they trying to go? Like, for example,
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to grow your business and your company is fine going stable or declining, you're going to be in conflict. That's just one example of a vision. Then support, then pay. It's not that support and pay don't matter, but if you flip that and go money, support, everything else under it, there's so many. That's why people change companies every few years because you have a misalignment everywhere else. And so that was some of the best advice I ever had from a company, from a company selection standpoint, because really our industry is like flipped on that, which is
It
crazy.
really is. And this also goes back to first world problems, but when we did all of those loans in 2020 and 2021, everybody grew accustomed to that lifestyle. And then it was like, hi, that was a small thing that's probably never gonna happen in our lifetime again. A lot of people bought houses and cars, and fortunately, I didn't do any of those things. I did become an alcoholic during those 2 years, and I know we're going to touch on that. But the money isn't everything in this business. And when I interview realtors and business partners that want to do business with us, my first question is, "Will you give up your paycheck to make a deal work for a family?"
Mhm.
And if they say no, I'm not doing business with you. I am people over paycheck. I am here to serve people, and I get a paycheck because of it. But ultimately, my first every single time we have to make these families happy. It's not there's a lot of things we cannot control, but we can control if they get into these homes sometimes. And if we have the power to do that, why would we not?
Totally agree.
So
Totally agree.
people over paycheck, that is our new motto. Um, and if you don't have that motto, I don't want to, you're not getting in the bubble.
Love that.
Mhm.
Absolutely love that. And you probably have a lot of realtors that you work with, just judging by the families that you serve. And so I love that you've kind of like curated your who's in proximity to you and who you work with based on values as the number one, which is amazing.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people that are talented. There's few who have that heart, what I've experienced, that heart to truly serve. And how you know that, which is this is another reason for my longevity here, is like how you find out the character is when it costs. When it
Mhm.
costs something, whether that's time or effort or money. And I'll never forget that in COVID, when it looked like things were very grim for our industry, that our CEO, Steve Jacobson, decided, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to spend like 8 million or something. I don't remember the exact, it was a lot of millions
So, it was a lot of money.
on cardio equipment for
Mhm.
people who work here.
I'm
And
looking at 2 of them sitting right here in my sunroom, and I love them because Kimmy got one and I got one, so we got a bike and an elliptical, and we still use them
saying, yeah,
every day.
yeah, I have that bike too still, and it's
Mhm.
fantastic. It's that those are the kind of things that's like if we were publicly traded. So these are things when people are considering where they're going to work, whatever the industry,
Mhm.
those are the kind of clues that I look for is what's the action in times of crisis and difficulty and adversity, because those are the things you can't put a price on. A
Yep.
few more dollars in commission, who cares if you can't do business the way you want to, or you're going to have to constantly argue with your company over things. It's just so much stress. I remember spending like a portion of my day every day like fighting my own company just to do what I felt was right. uh,
Mhm.
and I haven't had to do that since I've been here, and it's amazing.
Well, it's kinda cool too because we don't ever have to get to the top because everybody along the way knows
So true.
you better make this work because if we
Yeah.
have to get to the top, he's not gonna say no. He's gonna say, we gotta make this work for the street, guys.
Yeah,
And so I think that's pretty cool too, is we never really have to get to him because we have so many great humans that work here
we do.
that
That
want to make it work too.
our secret sauce for sure. Yeah, I
Oh
had
my
an
god.
issue this Friday with a loan that we needed corporate to come in and help with a funding issue, and literally from the first request email, it was like minutes and it was solved,
Mhm.
and somebody hopped in.
Mhm.
Never could get that at any place, and to your point, our CEO never even had to step in, like, the department
Mm.
manager just jumped. It was just like incredible. So those are the
It
things
is.
where this job, this industry has a very high potential for stress and pressure, and I still experience that for sure, but it's at such a lower level because I know that I'm gonna get help in any difficult situation, and the help's gonna be fast because,
Yep.
that's the other thing. Everybody's looking at me and you when an issue comes up, but we can't click the button or we don't maybe have the authority depending on what the situation is. We have to rely on the team. And if the team is slow and doesn't do the right thing, then it reflects back on us.
Mhm.
And that's just a beautiful, amazing thing. So tell the viewers your journey. So you've been in the industry quite a while. You mentioned 2020 and 2021 as like peak record years.
Mhm.
Think that season is probably one of the first times that I connected to or interacted with you or noticed kind of what you had
Mhm.
going on. So did you for national perspective, I recently did a couple pieces on this where I went back like 10, 11 years and the average sales annually nationwide were like a little over 5 million transactions a year. And in 20 and 21, it went at like over 6 million and rates were super low. And then now we've been stuck at like 4 million transactions a year, roughly national numbers. And so I think our best case scenario whenever like things change is, we would go back to like the 5 million transaction a year level, but probably the 6 million is a once in a generation fluke of demand based on super, super low rates. And so were your numbers like your family served, like were they always in the 300s or is that something that
No.
escalated during that season
Yes.
of
Yeah, so
2020?
I've when I came to Fairway in January of 19, pretty consistent with closing between 200 and 240 loans a year, but I could never get over that, like, 250 mark. I
Mm.
was stuck there. But I
That's
had worked
still
for
a
a
lot. So
it
for
is.
national terms, it's still a lot. So and I don't say that I'm not trying to like, but
Yeah, no, but you're right, perspective,
perspective,
because a
but you
lot of people don't
plateaued.
understand what
Yeah,
that
that's still like
means.
8 or 9, 10 times the normal.
The national
Um,
average, yeah.
so you had a long history of doing really well, but you
Mhm.
felt stuck at that level, quote unquote, and you wanted to continue growth and serve more families. So
Mhm.
what do you feel like was your constraint to that with
Well,
now the perspective of being on the other side of that?
yeah, well, it's kinda twofold. So I was working for a local company and it wasn't a national company, so I kinda had some constraints on me because I've never been one that does business with the people that fit in a box. We do a lot of credit repair, manufactured homes. I live in a rural area. We my average credit score is like 660 that we serve. My average loan amount's only 241, I think finally when I started at Fairway, it was like 135. I've never been a volume producer. I've always been the and again, this goes back
Volume
to
meaning
the
like dollars, because it
yeah.
yeah.
But it goes back to my childhood and my upbringing. All of the people that don't have the resources because they think that they can't do it, like, I love those people because I was one of those people, and I wanna help them get the American dream of homeownership when they think that they can't. Um, so for me to be able to come here and not be tied to lender overlays, for instance, FHA, there's a lender overlay for debt to income at our old company of 45%. Well, FHA doesn't have that overlay. So, a lot of files I was getting
Huge. That
exceptions on.
eliminates a lot of families from being able to
It,
get that financing.
exactly. So it just got to the point where I was just at the ceiling and I was the big fish in a small pond and I needed to be the small fish in a big pond. Um, and from there, I've been able to grow. So my first year at Fairway, I think was 250 something families, then 300. And then the two banner years was almost 1,200 loans in 2 years. I've never closed that many loans in my career. I sat at my desk for basically 16 hours a day, and there was nothing to do during COVID, right?
Yeah.
I am a people person. I am 5 to 6 events a day, Zoom calls, whatever it was, being in the community to your entire
Right.
calendar just cleared out.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do. So we sat at the office.
Mm,
Well, Tito's Turley every day between 20 and 21, the time that we were doing shots at the office
mm,
kept going backwards and backwards to the point at about 11 o'clock every day, I was shooting the Tito's straight out of the bottle, sitting
mm,
at my desk. Um, and I didn't get alcohol free until September 1st of 23. It'll be 3 years this year. That's crazy.
wow.
I
Congrats.
forgot it was 2026 already. Time flies when you're
Hi,
having
bye.
fun.
Yeah.
And I'd try to quit many times. I'd quit drinking for a week and then I'd be like, oh, I quit drinking for a week. I can go have one. I'm
Was
not the,
after like 22, 20, or was this before?
yeah. Well, this was like probably 22 and 23 when I was like, okay, we're back. Like we're doing events again, right? Like I'm not sitting at my
Things are
desk every
opening
day.
some
Like
places. Yeah.
I have to go function, right?
Mm,
So I needed to start pulling back on my drinking. But also with these realtor events, I mean, I have realtors that want to drink at 11 a.m. So if they're having a drink at lunch, I was having a drink at lunch. But my problem is once I started drinking, I was like the snowball going down the hill.
mm,
And I would drink every day until I passed out.
mm,
Um, I wouldn't remember a lot of times how I got home. I the tipping point was a golf outing, and I'd done 23 shots of Fireball. Um, and I pulled my pants down and I peed in a golf hole, like up on, is that the green, the tee box? I don't know. It
mm,
was embarrassing when I woke up the next morning. I had to do the apology tour, and it was like, how I'm grown, right? I'm in my 40s, this time mid 40s. How much longer are you going to let this go on? Well, I had quit drinking for about 10 days because this was the period between that. And then my oldest got arrested for a DUI.
mm,
And I picked him up and I made a commitment to him that him and I were going to slow down drinking. So when I picked him up, I'd already been 10 days in, and I was like, I'm going to commit to you to not drinking for 90 days. And none of my kids thought that I couldn't drink for 90 days because they had never known me not to be an alcoholic.
wow.
And I got to 100 days and I was like, what is this clearness and what is this life? I need to continue this.
Yeah.
Um, and so I haven't had a drink since, and no AA, no meetings. I literally quit cold turkey. One, my bonus kid that got arrested, his mom's an active heroin user,
Mm,
and she's never put down the needle for him. And so I also wanted to show him that moms can do hard things and that you can have a good mom in your life that wants to be around you. Um, my bonus kids are amazing, but I can't imagine again that life. Well, I kind of can. Um, there was a lot of drinking in our household growing up. And again, for me to be able to break these generational cycles for my kids um, is a big deal. My youngest now is a year sober at
wow.
23. It's pretty phenomenal.
That is phenomenal. What a gift.
It
What a,
really is.
and
It
that's
really, really is.
generational change that,
And if I wouldn't have quit drinking though, she wouldn't have quit drinking. My team wouldn't have quit drinking. Um, Many people across this country wouldn't have quit drinking. And for me to be able to have the platform and tell my story and be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
how many people are going to say that they pulled their pants down on the golf course and peed in a golf hole? I mean, it's not something that you want to go out and say in public, but it's reality. And how many of us have embarrassing stories that we're like, oh my God, I would never say that out loud. But
Yeah.
for people to feel like they're not alone is a big deal because, again, on my journey, talking to people and having a little bit of a rough childhood and all the things that I went through, I'm not alone. And it is okay to ask for help. And it is okay to say that you're struggling. And for me, that is very hard. I am an
Mm.
OCD fucking control freak. Like,
Mm.
I need control of everything.
Were you
And
always
that's
that
how,
way, or was that something that has changed, like, in the last few years since you quit drinking?
oh no, it's always been that way. And it's kind of funny because my OCD has lightened up a lot since I quit drinking. I tell my team a lot. I used to be a tyrant. Um, you're staying at the office till every phone call's returned. You will get all of these things done because I didn't have a good work-life balance.
Mm.
So I made my team not have a good work-life balance, especially when I was drinking. Um, it wasn't good, and since then, since I've quit drinking, I'm gonna have a life. I'm gonna work from home. I'm gonna sit outside and look at my 7 bird feeders that I have hanging up. I'm gonna go golfing with my kids on a Sunday afternoon. I'm gonna take a 4-day weekend and take my kids to Vegas and have fun. I'm not going to live to work anymore. I'm working so that I can live my life, and I've never, until I got alcohol-free, lived my life that way. It was always been work, 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 and it's like, why are you doing that to yourself? Yes, I love my job, but I
Mm.
also, again, I only get one life. So why am I not going to do all of the things that I really want to do? And honestly, I'm at the point in my life I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me anymore. I get a lot that like, "Oh, Angie's on another trip," and I'm like, "Hey," and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Do you pay my mortgage?" And they're like, "Well, no," and I'm like, "Then shut the fuck up. I'm gonna go travel again." I really don't care just because you're jealous that I'm actually living my life now. I'm not going to stop living because you have an opinion about it, because opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, and I don't need yours.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I've honestly, it's flipped to where my OCD is pulling back a lot
Mm.
and I don't have to have control. I say not my circus, not my monkeys to myself about 27 times a day to remind myself I cannot control what other people do. I can only control my actions and the way that I'm responding to what they're doing. Other than that, I can't I can't do all of that and I won't do it. And I'm not going to let it eat at what I've been building for so long and anybody to ruin that.
A lot of people probably could relate to some of the things you just said. I know one of the things you said really hit me was, like, years ago, I had a client who, knock on wood, this is like my only negative review I ever had from a client. And he had a very difficult income situation, a lot of bonus income, and we couldn't qualify him for the home that he wanted at that time. And it was going to take like another year because he needed 2 years of the overtime.
Mhm.
And so we would touch base with him, my team and I, like, I don't know, 50 plus times in that year of, like, there was a lot of effort, a lot of communication. So anyway, just for context. And so he got frustrated with me because I, at that time, was going to 4 or 5 different coaching events across the country, and I would put it online. And one of the things he said in the review was like, this guy just travels around and does stuff. And it was just like very, you could tell he was hurt, but still it hurt at that time. Like I didn't have that ability to release that yet at that time. And for a long time, I didn't share some of the things I was doing because I didn't want someone else to feel bad. But what I realized was like I was by trying to serve that person with like um kind of like an empty or negative mindset, um I avoided helping a lot of people who would be encouraged or inspired to do good things and grow and have experiences. And so that was a shift for me. And I'm sure people could relate to that, what you said about, um, like the haters on that. Cause it's, I mean, to our type of personality, like we don't love that.
Mm-mm. I
And
hate it.
trying to like flex on people or anything like that. It's like these are real life like things that we're trying to do to recharge or give a great experience to our family. These are not like flexes that people are doing to like try to show anything. Um, but a lot of people probably undershare the things they're doing for fear of not
Mhm.
of getting criticized by someone else who really, there. I'm sure you've heard something to this effect is like successful people, like you'll never see like a really fit person making fun and shaming someone who's overweight at the gym trying to do better. Like they're going to hype them up. They're going to,
Mhm.
like you're never going to get criticized by someone that's doing more than you, right? Like the people who are doing more, like they're hyping you up, they're encouraging you. They're like, hey, keep going, keep doing your thing, keep getting better.
Mhm.
So, um, what a beautiful story of just resilience and grit and caring about your kids, your community, and having a why behind. I think I've seen more and more since you have started being vocal about it. I've noticed um, I'll be 46 in June, and
Mhm.
a lot of my friends in high school I've seen post about, quitting drinking, quitting drugs, marijuana, whatever. Um, and this is like something I think that's been building that people are seeing. Like our generation is like getting more into health and, taking care of your body, exercise,
Mhm.
sleep, and, more things come out about alcohol that it's really hard to have good sleep, good function, mental clarity, not to mention like chemically and like physically what it can do to your organs. But more and more people are talking about this, and it just shows. I just notice it more. Like even at like I'm just not calling out anyone because everyone's on their own journey. But like to your point about um, industry events, real estate
Mhm.
events, mortgage events, title events, even the MBA, the Mortgage Banker Association locally had a thing, and it's always like a happy hour type.
Mhm.
It's just like hang out and drink, at 4 o'clock on
Right.
whatever it is, and it's just like I get excited about like how can we continue to change the culture of our industry and our families and our communities by telling those kind of stories because anyone who's ever overdrank probably has a story like that of regret, of shame. And
Mhm.
um, I made a reel at the airport recently where something kind of hit me, and I was like, I've never heard anyone our age say, you know what, like drinking man, like it really helped my life. Like long term, like I'm crushing it now. And I have all these great memories with my family. And I helped all these people in my career. And like alcohol was the driver behind that. It's been really helping me. Uh,
Mhm.
Never heard anyone say that. I have
No.
so many people say the exact opposite. And it would just kind of in that moment, it's kind of like maybe obvious, but also I for the last year plus, I've been serving at my local church with the high school boys. I have 10th and 11th graders, and one of the kids was asking, like, well, it was in the context of like not going to parties where there's alcohol and drugs, and one of the genuinely, which I love when people share, like, really and tell the truth about what they're wrestling with versus just like not saying it or sugarcoating it. He's like, well, I don't want to miss out on like the fun. Like, won't I miss out on the fun? And I'm like, dude, like, actually, let me tell you, you're going to miss out on like regret, shame, um, things you have to apologize for. Like, you know,
The
it
apology tour was always the worst.
yeah, it's not, and so, but these are the stories that even our young people are hearing and experiencing from their peers, and that's one of the things I was mentioning about, like, people I went to high school with that, were big on that scene, and now they're big, like, saying, like, "Hey, what you've shared, like, hey, my life has gotten so much better." Whatever it looks like, whether people completely stop or they, like, dramatically cut back, I've heard over and over that theme and how much better things are
Mhm.
when they made those choices. So,
And one thing I did forget to mention, so we're probably gonna have to do part 2, Josh. But back, in 2020 and 2021, when we were just sitting at our desks for so long, I also got up to 250 pounds.
mm,
So I'm down close to 115 pounds now in 5 years. Um, but I tell you what, when I quit drinking, I get more compliments now than I ever did when I lost my first 100 pounds.
hmm,
Because they're like, "You look younger, you look clearer, you look better," and I'm like, "Yeah," and it does go hand in hand. Because I told my health coach when I hired her, I was like, "I'm not quitting drinking, what do you mean?" No.
I'm fine. I'll do
Um,
everything else, but just
I
not.
know, and then I had her for a year because I'd never worked out before, and then when I started to get my good habits, I just went out on my own, and, we have since talked, and she's just amazed. She's like, "I can't believe you quit drinking," because she knew. I mean, I'd get up hungover as hell in the morning to do our workouts.
Mm.
Crazy. Crazy what the alcohol will do, like you said, emotionally, mentally, physically, all of it.
And for a lot of people, it's like you don't notice it because it's slow over time and then it begins
Mhm.
to feel normal. So this has been amazing. I definitely would
Good.
love to have you back.
Of course.
I know you've got a meeting coming.
Yeah, I gotta do 1:30 with my processor, and I gotta go pee in between, so I was like, I probably should end
We'll
this with
wrap this
Josh so I
up.
can go get
People
my
want to
shit
follow
together.
you on social or anywhere. Where can they follow you?
Basically, I think everything's under Angie Turley. LinkedIn is Angie Turley, Instagram's Angie Turley, Facebook is Angie Turley. My personal Facebook is Angie Roberts Turley, from my maiden name.
All right. Well,
But
we
yeah,
will link
and
those.
I post all those things on there too. I love
You
posting
do.
my
That's
story
why I wanted to
and
mention that for the listeners and the viewers.
mhm,
Follow your journey and be encouraged. Really appreciate you coming on the show today. Would
of
love to have
course.
you back. And to
I
all,
love that.
we really appreciate you tuning in to this episode of the Made to Be Great podcast, where we have conversations that spark growth. Have a great day.
You were made to be great. Don't settle for less. You were made to be great.